Well, there were so many different aspects to this and unanswered questions. I don't see any connection between a bird strike and whether the landing gear was able to come up or down or not. I really can't see that those two things are related. However, what can be related is the response to a bird strike. So after you've hit a flock of birds, you may have an engine out, you might have things going on, and that creates a lot of chaos in that cockpit as far as how the aircraft is going to land, where it's going to land on the runway, all of those things. You don't have a lot of options. If you overshoot a runway by a little bit, which it appears had this happened here, is that you're going to hit in the middle of the runway as you go traverse down it. So that can cause that overspeed condition at the end. But there's so many different unanswered questions. And yes, flight data recorder will give us those answers. That's my biggest question that I have is airports are supposed to be designed where an aircraft can land without landing gear. And if it veers off the runway to one side or the other into the grass, that there isn't obstructions and barriers of this type that are close to the runway. In this case, I haven't quite been able to determine yet, but there's no answer as to why that lighting facility, which is a large piece of concrete equipment, is located exactly where it is. No reason in my mind for it to be there. So that would be my next question does the airport meet the standard design criterion for an international airport? So those things will be looked at very closely by the investigators.
At this moment, we don't have all of the data, obviously, but there appears to be, number one, a bird strike. There are images of allegedly a bird strike on this aircraft just prior to landing. It appears to have impacted the right engine, so they probably had a right engine failure. It's a twin-engine aircraft. You've lost one engine. Now, whether that caused a cascading series of problems in the cockpit, we don't know. But for whatever reason, the undercarriage of the aircraft has not been lowered. It should never have a wall anywhere near the runway, nowhere near it. So and when you look at it, you see the plane exit the runway. It then travels about 100 meters, possibly less than that, and impact the wall. Now, I haven't done the research, Lisa, but I would say that absolutely contravenes international standards to have that wall there. No question about it. If they were going to make an emergency landing with the undercarriage up, why didn't the fire tenders lay foam on the runway? Why weren't they in attendance when the plane touched down? And why did the aircraft touch down so far down the runway that it had no chance of stopping before it exited the runway? And why was there a brick wall at the end of the runway? So there's a whole series of questions that beg answers to which we don't have at this stage.
It really has to be a series of catastrophic events that lead to such a high loss of life. The human frame can withstand enormous amounts of negative G. Aircraft are extremely robust. The crash protection systems on board are extremely robust. The seating is robust. So for this kind of catastrophe to happen, a lot of things it is incredibly unusual. Aircraft engines are built to withstand a lot, including a bird strike. But if the birds are particularly large, they're in flocks and there's several of them, then even a modern jet engine has problems against it. And we saw that in what's called the Miracle of the Hudson River, where there was a flock of Canadian geese. So we're looking at substantial birds hitting an engine, and that is, as we know, very rare. Really, if you lose all power, the first thing to do is to activate the APU, the auxiliary power unit, get power back, and then that gives you some more control. However, if you're at low altitude, you suddenly lose control. You might not have time to put the APU on. You've lost most of your instrumentation, and including the controls which will lower the landing gear. then suddenly you have to make a lot of very major decisions very quickly.